This your boy, Shun, joined.
Steve OG. Here.
Joined.
By Steve OG.
Will you shut up? I'm trying to do. Joined by the man that makes your panties moist and your butthole hot, Steve OG.
Howdy.
Join us as we open the Extreme Wrestling Archive. NWA ECW. BloodFeast. 93.
Yeah, here we go for the 100th time. Hand grenade pins in every line. Throw them up and let something shine. Going out of my fucking mind. Filthy mouth, no excuse. Find a new place to hang this noose. String me up from atop these roofs. Knot it tight so I won't get loose. Truth is you can stop and stare. Run myself out and no one cares. Dug the trench out, lay down there with a shovel up out of reach somewhere. Yeah, someone pour it in. Make it a dirt dance floor again. Say your prayers and stop it out when they bring that chorus in. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. I bleed it out.
What were your thoughts on this show?
I felt like this show was a step backwards.
Correct.
It reminded me of that song from like...
Paula Abdul.
Yeah, exactly.
You
I
take
was thinking
2
of that
steps
cat.
forward,
Yeah.
2 steps back. We come together.
Like opposites attract.
Yeah.
And the things that came together were the NWA and the ECW, which are complete opposites. The NWA was like the staple, like cliche wrestling of the 80s, like colorful American patriotic rings and bright colors and these regional stars that are kind of old and busted. And then the ECW was this new rebellious incarnation of wrestling. And for this particular pay-per-view, because of the way the environment was, you had these two things colliding and merging for one 2-day card of matches, but everything was under the shield and under the guidance of the NWA. So what you get is ECW wrestlers kind of restricted,
Exactly.
is what I would say, and kind of forced to blend themselves into an environment that they really don't belong in. Kind of like when you, the Catholic school kid, showed up to public school the first day of 9th grade wearing your polo shirt and your parochial pants, and you didn't know what to do.
Exactly. They had to tone it back a little bit. Tone it back.
Right.
I feel that it would be more if you came to my Christian school.
Yeah.
You would have to tone it back a little bit.
Yeah. Although I do look damn good in a polo shirt.
Do you? Burgundy polo?
I've known to rock a burgundy polo shirt.
Can you pull off burgundy?
Yeah, but I cannot pull off blue parochial pants.
I can.
Pleats.
They are slimming.
The pleats.
The crotch region.
But yeah, so it was 2 days of matches that they had these and filmed these, and then they eventually just like aired them over like a 2-week time span.
It was a little more than that.
A little bit longer than that. They just kind of stuck them in here, there, and everywhere.
A month or two. You could pretty much tell that this was made for TV.
Right. Yeah. If anything that maybe came out of this was maybe ECW learned what they're good at. You know what I mean? Maybe they realized, hey, we don't have the minds or this kind of creativity to do this packaged, canned, wholesome wrestling show. We're not the people to do that. We're the people that can do this new thing.
Yeah.
We find it fun, we find it interesting, and we need to go our own path.
We are not retro.
Right. We are pro-tro.
Futuro.
Right. Exactly.
Alright, so what happened last time? It was Ultra Clash. And as we both agreed, that was 10 times better than the previous one, the Summer Sizzler.
Exactly.
Going into this, you can see almost nothing has carried over.
It was like a comic book where they just like reboot everything and you have no idea what's going on. Same thing happened. It was like all the plot lines, all the stories even some of the wrestlers just weren't there.
Yeah.
They
I
just
think there might be like one or two things that were actually carried over, like the Kevin Sullivan and Abdullah the Butcher, I think, right? Although they weren't even on the show. They were there, it wasn't recorded, or at least it wasn't released.
It like reminds me of like an 80s sitcom where they have the very special episode that doesn't go with the plot of the sitcom.
Like when Punky Brewster gets caught in a freezer.
Right, and then next week they go back to what was happening.
To all
As if Punky Brewster wasn't in a freezer.
And they resume all their normal shenanigans.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. This was the very special episode.
By special, we mean short bus special.
Right.
Alright, so match 1 was The Bad Breed versus Chad Austin and Todd Shaw. What do you know about Todd Shaw?
He has 2 D's in his
I almost heard crickets.
Yeah.
Alright, so first thing, right off the bat, first thing out of Joey Styles' mouth is he announces there's a new champion. Sabu. Again, special. That's like, they lead off with that.
There was a raffle.
There's no surprise, just...
But, by the way,
yeah.
In case you guys...
If they did that the following week with Punky Brewster and told me the end of Punky Brewster at the beginning of the show, I don't think I'd stay... Or
like the next episode, there was just a new Punky Brewster.
Yeah, it was somebody... Like, if they did that, say, on, like, Roseanne, and all of a sudden there's just a new Becky.
Right.
Oh, wait. They did
that
do
happened.
That. And they tried to act like nothing happened. I can tell that is 2 different
And then they
Beckys.
brought old Becky back later.
Yeah! Dude, what was that all about? That actually was brilliant. Because that was just like a mind fuck. That was like Donnie Darko.
Oh man, now I'm not going to sleep tonight. Wait, did Roseanne have something to do with Donnie Darko? Is that what I can figure out?
I think it was this... Roseanne was Donnie Darko. She was the giant rabbit.
I thought Dan was the rabbit.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Alright, so he also plugs the November to Remember.
You almost forgot it.
I did. November for forgetting. No, he plugs the November to Remember, which, again, was not released, or at least... You could definitely tell it was videotaped, because they show a lot of clips from it later. But I don't think it was ever released. First thing you do, you kick off with Ian Rotten, who we met last time. But this time we meet his storyline brother, Axel. Which, what do you think Axel comes from? I want to ask you that.
Probably a car.
It does,
yeah.
But it's spelled differently. AXL.
So big. Like a big... AXL. A large. More than large.
Where do you think he got the name Axel from?
Oh. I have no idea.
Have you ever seen Beverly Hills Cop?
Axel Foley.
That is correct. Would you believe that? I would have thought it would have came from like Axl Rose.
Right.
But it was actually from Beverly Hills Cop, Axel. So Axel Rotten is aka Brian Knighton. He's another wrestler based pretty much on Johnny Rotten from
Which
the Sex Pistols, because he's
50 wrestlers named after Sex Pistols.
Yeah, correct.
Sid Vicious named after
the Sex Pistols.
Sid Vicious.
And then he was also Lord Humongous. Is that from Gwar? That's a bass player for some band.
I think it is Gwar.
Is it Gwar? Yeah. So, but yeah, he was also after the Sex Pistols, as was Johnny Grunge originally, and then Axl Rotten now. Yeah, like I said, a lot of people think it's from Axl Rose, but it's actually from Beverly Hills Cop. So Eddie Murphy's character, Axel Foley, like you said. Paulie, he brought both of them in after he left from WCW. I guess they worked there. Well, I know Axel worked at WCW, but only in dark matches. I don't think he ever made it to television because he's just not camera friendly, really. As far as WCW and WWF are concerned at the time.
Did not fit their mold.
Correct. So Chad Austin, he actually hung around ECW for a while. He actually became like the Barry Horowitz of ECW. Are you familiar with Barry Horowitz? We brought him up last time. And I bet Chad Austin would be at the Jobber convention with Barry Horowitz winning the cornhole tournament. What do you think? And then Todd Shaw, as far as I know, he's just a Canadian independent wrestler.
Canuck.
He doesn't have his own Wikipedia page, so he must not be that important.
We are the North.
Correct. What is the Wikipedia of Canada?
I believe it's still Wikipedia.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
They don't have their own.
Nope.
Okay, so kickoff with Chad Austin. He was getting in some nice offense. Mostly in particular, he did a pretty sweet looking moonsault. Remember that?
I do recall.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
But eventually, Bad Breed with their typical heel tag team tactics. They distract the ref. They pull up on the count of 2. That's heel.
And in fact, there's never been a clean tag team match in the history of ECW.
As of right now.
You're right.
Yeah. So they had that double arm DDT. Ian Rotten actually does it. I think it's the only wrestling move he's ever done. And then they do some actually pretty decent tag team moves.
Yeah.
Even off the ropes, and I think there was a slam into a pretty sweet elbow drop.
Yeah, they were a solid squad together,
and then they had their finisher, which is the rocket launcher, aka the British Bomb, which they ended up pinning Chad Austin for pretty quickly. So all in all, this was just a jobber match. It was just to showcase the Bad Breed, who they were, against 2 skinnier nobodies, one of which was from Canada.
And to kind of start off the action. Get it moving.
It really didn't get it moving. Much like Ultra Clash, where it was the Public Enemy starting things off. Although they were technically against 2 jobbers as well, but the Public Enemy can really get the crowd going. So, what are your thoughts on the Bad Breed and Chad Austin, or versus Chad Austin and Todd Shaw?
It seemed that the Bad Breed was way better and probably didn't belong in the match with the other 2.
Because they had a team name.
Because they had a team name. When you don't have a team name, that usually means you're just kind of thrown out there. But yeah, you can see that they were the more technically sound duo because they probably had wrestled together more.
And their brothers.
So they grew up probably beating the shit out of each other, as brothers typically do.
Storyline.
Say what?
Storyline brothers, not real brothers.
Or were they?
Is that the gimmick?
We usually find that in soap operas 5 to 10 years later.
Is that M. Shyamalan?
Don't get me going.
M. Night Shyamalan twist?
And then they end up they've been underground the entire time.
And they're actually
but in space.
Uncles.
Underground in space.
They're uncles of each other. They're their own grandpa.
Space uncles.
Alright. Anything else on that one?
No, sir.
Not much to it.
Yep.
Pretty standard, boring opener squash match. Again, you could tell this was just for TV. The second match was Rockin' Rebel with Chris Michaels versus Donnie Allen. Joined in progress. So I was talking last time about how
somebody didn't turn the handy-cam on.
Donnie Allen was in the women's battle royal. That was the only appearance he ever made. Like I said, he was pretty heavy in TWA. Here he makes a impression.
He's upgrading into a men's match.
Correct. Not much of an upgrade, but yeah, you notice Joey Styles on commentary. Like I said before, Paul E joins them. They mostly just kind of put over the Rockin' Rebel. He's got some power moves, and then he ends up just finishing it with a sidewalk slam. I don't even think Donnie Allen did a move. I think he might have done a chopper, too.
Was he even in the match?
He was there in body. I don't know about spirit. So after all this was more or less the action after the match. That's when Rockin' Rebel grabs the mic, cuts a little promo, and holy shit, you can understand what he says.
Because they're not using ECW. They're using NWA equipment.
That's correct. They have a mic. They had a microphone with the foam on top.
That did not come from a garage.
And they obviously had it hooked up to the camera or something. I mean, unless they just had some sweet speakers or what. But you can understand what they said. But it is completely ruined by Joey Styles and Paul E, who just talk over them. So you couldn't understand what they said anyway. Pretty much, I think Rockin' Rebel just says he hates kids.
He's not doing it for the kids.
Much like any other male in America these days.
He's the Charles Barkley
or Sean Kemp.
Videotaped wrestling.
Yeah. Says that he really hates kids is actually what he says. Like most pro wrestlers, I assume, don't really like their kids. Because they're on the road for, 210 days a year? 210 days a year.
Except for Roman Reigns. He sang I'm a Little Teapot to his daughter.
Oh, did he?
In a commercial.
That's so cute.
And then told you to be a good father.
The funny thing is, after that, the Rockin' Rebel proceeds to tell Michaels that he hates his child. He probably doesn't even know his child. Neither of them probably know his child. Probably illegitimate. this ends up making them come to blows. So they were both heel, and they're fighting because the Rockin' Rebel. You'll notice at first he's like, oh, just walks away, you know. He says, screw you, walks away, turns around, cold cocks him in the back of the head.
Cheap shot.
Yeah. I think this might escalate to something.
Be a catalyst.
There you go, a
more
catalyst.
Physical interactions in the future.
Possibly even fisticuffs may stem from this. Alright, so next one we have is the Public Enemy reappearing. We saw them last time. Facing Gino Caruso and the Silver Jet. What are your thoughts on the Silver Jet?
Silver Jet sounds like a fancy airplane.
Yeah, he looks like Ultraman.
It does look like Ultraman. It's a terrible name.
Well, I don't get. Is he supposed to like be super quick, or does he have the capability of flying?
Neither. They just looked in a list of like cool words. Super,
silver.
They were like, it's close. Superman, silver, and jet. That's
Is
like
there
an airplane.
Is there a superhero named after a plane?
There's the Silver Surfer.
That's
silver.
surfing.
And then there's there's no plane man or anything like that.
I feel like is there like Thomas
the Tank Engine.
Yeah, didn't he have a friend that was a plane? I don't think he was a superhero plane though.
Just a normal everyday type.
He was the one that could land in water. What are those called? A puddle jumper.
Airplanes.
Gino Caruso. He's a teacher / wrestler.
Different than a wrestler / teacher.
Correct.
Teacher.
And I guess he was a promoter on the East Coast. And pretty much the Silver Jet was just one of his students at the time.
Like a third grader.
Correct.
Third grade students.
Advanced.
This is like School of Rock.
Yeah.
But like
this was
putting
like
your children, your class in danger.
Yeah. Do you know how they have like advanced classes, like college classes? Yeah. This was college physical education.
Right. Yeah.
College level.
Right. Rather than climbing the rope, this kid had to get in a ring with adults
and wrestle.
Yeah.
Pretty much another squash match, obviously, because they didn't have a team name, so you know they're not going to be good. Just not going to happen. Oh, it's just like the previous two matches. The Silver Jet gets in a few moves. I think he was just trying to get some publicity. So I hit a quick moves and then just completely get destroyed by the Public Enemy, which happened. They pretty much were just there to make the Public Enemy look good, or at least better than they were. Because they're ultimately brawlers. They don't wrestle no good. They don't wrestle no good.
I ain't no good.
Rocco Rock, much like the first match, hits a moonsault and pins him. The Silver Jet.
The old 1, 2, 3.
Correct. So, squash match, much like Rockin' Rebel and Donnie Allen, and much like the Bad Breed versus Chad Austin and the Todd Shaw.
2 Ds.
Correct. 2D Todd Shaw.
2D. Height.
Double D.
Height and width.
2 dimensions.
There is no depth.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the last match?
No, same thing. Another just crappy tag match between people that don't belong to the tag team match.
All right.
Which is a staple
of this card. Yeah. All right. So some in-depth thoughts there. So you cut to a match which was Molly McShane versus, what is that, Malia Osaka?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe it.
Okay.
We don't know. He doesn't go by a name because there's usually
it's a
ninjas
female.
don't have names.
Yeah, it's a female. So as for these two chicks, never seen them before. Actually, never heard of them before. Molly McShane, she wrestled on the ladies' independent circuit, which I had no idea existed. Apparently, it does. She even won.
Very topographical. There is a new series on Netflix.
Glow.
Called Glow.
Why not? What
regarding the '80s independent women's wrestling circuit.
Well, I'll be damned. I'm gonna have to eat a plate of crow. Not only does it exist, they made a goddamn TV show about it. Or at least a streaming show. So, Molly McShane, she actually even won the Caribbean Ladies title. So
Which is a very reputable
correct. Yeah.
title.
I mean, all the big names have held it.
Like that one lady and then that other one.
Yeah, the one that
she took it off that other lady.
the one that made good sandwiches, and
She won?
she took a break from making good sandwiches.
I thought she was like the Susan Lucci of the Caribbean wrestling. So she just never.
Yeah. What is she on the
Always
same
the
show?
bridesmaid.
How long was she on that show? What was that? Days of Our Lives? She was always in a coma. One of those shows where somebody always gets out of a coma and has amnesia 18 times in their life.
There's a lot of comas.
Yeah, and a lot of amnesia. Like, how could you forget that you forgot things? Like,
how could you forget that you were in a coma?
Malia Hosaka, believe it or not, is American, which blew my mind because her name means ninja in Japan, I think. Japanese. Mandarin, that's in Hosaka.
I believe that's Japanese.
Is it?
Sounds.
Well, she's American. She apparently still wrestles today.
Wow.
Despite retiring in 2012. Much like Terry Funk, he originally retired in 1984. Still wrestles. He's over 70. I don't think he really wrestles anymore. He does like run-ins and hits a move and then goes.
Not really running. It's more like waddling weekends.
Yeah, I think he walkers and then he has to like take a hit off his asthma inhaler, his Symbicort, and then take his congestive heart failure medication.
And then sleep in a hyperbaric for 30 to 40 days afterwards.
Correct. She wrestled for WCW, believe it or not, TNA, and even the WWF. But WWF, at the last minute, decided to change her with someone else. Can you guess who? They went with someone else other than Malia Hosaka to manage F.A. Rios. Remember him?
I do not remember it. So I'm
going to play the Jeopardy music while Give up.
Yeah.
Time's up. Lita. Remember Lita?
I do remember Lita.
Do you think that was a good choice by the WWF?
Lita is in the Hall of Fame.
That's one of the right decisions they made. One of the few.
Yeah.
But that was during the Attitude Era, so honestly,
they made a lot of right decisions.
I don't think Vince McMahon could have done any wrong in the early 90s, or excuse me, the late 90s, early aughts. So Hosaka hit some decent moves, including a rope walk, arm drag type thingy. That
Must have the balance.
It was like The Undertaker. She hit a pretty brutal looking kick that looked pretty painful in the corner. Looked stiff.
A lady kick.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on her mid-drift Bushido thingy that she was wearing, like, belt thingy? It looks like, you know...
Bought it at a Karate Kid fan
convention.
Yeah.
But she decided to go with it around her midriff as opposed to around the head.
Right.
So, does that mean you're in, like, a different discipline
I think she
of
was
Bushido?
I believe she was just covering up a shitty tattoo.
Was that it? Or maybe she had, like, some stretch marks?
Maybe. But probably a shitty tattoo.
Do you think it was a dude's name? Like
probably like lightning bolts around her belly button.
Oh, you're a fucking dick. Who would get tattoos of lightning bolts on the stomach? That's just lame. She hits a gut wrench suplex that looked like she almost could have killed Molly McShane. And then Hosaka wins after a rolling senton from the top, which is like a flip, and then you just land on the person like a cannonball. That seems like extremely painful. Like almost like when, you know, what is it, the double stomp to the midsection? Like, how do you...
You just gotta take it.
How do you, like, protect yourself?
There's no way.
You have to clench. Like, clutch. Honestly, I feel like my large colon would prolapse out of my anus if somebody did that to me.
Yours probably would.
Yeah, it's very loose. God. I take that back. It's tighter than a fucking snare drum. Alright. Thoughts on that match, women's match. Was there was no titty, I don't think.
No, it was, the whole time it was just funny because of that thing around her waist. That's all I just kept looking at. Because I'm pretty sure it was the exact replica of the symbol from Karate Kid. Like with the bonsai tree.
The rising sun.
And the bonsai tree.
So next we have 2 name tag teams versus each other.
This doesn't happen very often.
Mm-mm. We got the Bad Breed versus Bad Company.
But they're back.
The Bad Breed?
The Bad Breed.
Yes. You will see multiple wrestlers on this show multiple times.
Song called Bad Company, written by a band called Bad Company.
On the CD, Bad Company. No, I think it was different. The Best of Bad Company, I think it was. And it was just one song. That song. Alright, so Bad Company, Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka, they're former AWA champions. So AWA in the late 70s, 80s was actually on par with the WWF. Or was it the WWF back then? They were in the NWA, but they were pretty big back then. They even had Hulk Hogan. They started the Hulkmania over there, pretty much. I don't think it was called Hulkmania.
What's Hulkamania?
This guy, Hulk Hogan.
Can you describe what that is?
I think he could figure it out.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, just don't like it's like a porno tape where I think he's nailing somebody's wife or something. But here they are, same name. They competed in the WWF a couple years prior as the Orient Express.
Like a choo-choo train.
Correct. Except Paul Diamond is not Oriental.
Or a choo-choo train.
Paul Diamond, he's Croatian, believe it or not. He's from
Croatia.
Croatia, correct. It's good that I was testing you. And Tanaka, he's not even full-blown Japanese. He's half Hawaiian.
But not Croatian.
Correct. No, there is no Croatian in him. No. Paul Diamond, he would go on to be Max Moon in WWF. Remember that guy?
Max Moon.
He had a jetpack.
He did a jetpack.
And he shot streamers out of it. He was pretty much Buzz Lightyear.
Before Buzz Lightyear.
Correct. I think Buzz Lightyear ripped off Max Moon WWF, so consider trademark infringement.
He made a lot more money than Max Moon did.
Yeah. Yeah, Buzz Lightyear. And he was way better. And he could fly.
Kind of.
Tanaka, he went on to be El Gato.
The cat.
In the WCW. And he is most famous for his entrance music being used by Goldberg later. That's his claim to fame. Goldberg, kind of a big deal. Little bit, it's like El Gato here, Goldberg here. So.
Can El Gato stand in sparks for a very long time?
No. And then breathe out the fumes.
Spark fumes?
No. Yeah, cats don't like fire, I don't think. Too hairy. This is the first non-jobber match of the night. Diamond, he hits a pretty decent spin kick for as big as he is.
Huzzah.
Paul E. rejoined Styles on commentary. What are your thoughts on Tanaka's karate poses? Like, doing the crane and what have you.
He looks like he's a Street Fighter character ready to shoot fireballs.
Do you think he could do that?
If he channels his chi hard
enough chi?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there a term for the poses they do?
I believe it's called voguing.
Strike a pose. Oh, God. Joey Styles keeps asking Paulie about Sabu, which Paulie I love how he dodges the question. He's like, look at my toe, or something, like that. Like, just completely.
So I'm shiny.
Yeah. Woohoo, look at the monkey. Look at the silly monkey. And then he's kind of like Johnny Cochran in the courtroom, Don't look at DNA. Look at this monkey. Not OJ. That is so racist. Oh, God. I apologize. So he keeps dodging questions about Sabu on commentary. Bad Company, they do hit a pretty decent amount of double team moves on Axel Rotten. You can tell they've teamed together before, and they have. They've won both titles. But more importantly, what is with Axel Rotten's hairdo? Serious question. It's like,
you can't describe it.
He's got like the fade thing on top.
He went in to get a $4 haircut, but only had like $3.09.
So he's like 81 cents short.
So they gave him They gave him a $3.11 haircut.
Because he's got like the poofy hair, the wet like white noodle. It looks like ramen noodles.
Yeah.
But it's trimmed all the way around. But then there's it's mohawk formed. But then there's a gap, and then there's a mullet.
It's like they had to do cranial surgery on the side of his head and just didn't see the need to shave off the rest.
It's just like a strip around his head that's completely shaved. Mullet on the... It's like the definition of business in the front and party in the back. Or at least business from the sides.
It's like he was trying to, like, show Pangea with his hair. Like how Pangea broke out and there was this continent in various places on Earth.
As I said before, Diamond, very agile for as big as he is. He hits a jumping bulldog on you, and you're a fan of the bulldogs. Bad Breed resort to their illegal tactics gain the advantage.
That's all good heel tag teams do.
Did you see that sit-down splash from Ian Rotten onto Tanaka from the top rope? That looked painful.
It looked very painful. It looked hefty.
Looked almost like a baby in a jumper.
Right.
In between the doorways.
What?
Alright. Eventually, work the crowd, get a hot tag to Paul Diamond from Tanaka. Comes in with a flurry of offense. Finally, Bad Company wins with a belly to back from Diamond after their special team move, which is the leapfrog into the draped opponent over the rope move.
They need to come up with a better title.
Too many syllables in it. Like the British Bomb, for instance. Alright, and yeah, that's the first non-jobber match. Ends up Bad Company defeats the Bad Breed. What are your thoughts on that match?
You've now had 3 tag team matches on this card already, and this is by far the best one. The second one with the Bad Breeds, and they looked better, and I don't think it was because they were just any better. They were probably just grossly tired from the first one, because it was the next day, and very sweaty from wearing the same clothes. But they just looked better because they were facing off better opponents who were also used to wrestling with each other. So it just goes to show you, like, you can't bring your A game unless someone else is bringing it.
I feel like, yeah, you're only as good as your opponent, or something like that.
Some sort of cliche.
The better your opponent, the better they bring out in you. In which, that's true in real life and in storyline here, so... Better tag team, they're going to bring a better game. Although they came up short, but good match all around. At least better than the fucking first 3 that were just squashes. Speaking of squashes, next we have Sandman versus Metal Maniac. What are your thoughts on the Metal Maniac?
I never really got to even enjoy the match because I just kept thinking about how this guy's name is Metal Maniac. And it's just an awful...
You were trying to figure out which metal he was actually a maniac about.
I didn't understand why. Like, was it like heavy metal, the rock and roll music that the kids were listening to, or was it some sort of metallic alloy?
Like chromium?
Alloy. But then, like, he wasn't wearing any metal. He didn't bring any metal. So,
what if he had?
But he also didn't have any metal music or a guitar. So I don't know. Don't know.
What if he had an iron breastplate?
That would be fine. He enjoys wearing metal.
He's a maniac about wearing metal.
Like, maybe he has a lot of iron in his diet. I didn't know. I wanted to know more.
That would be horrible for your stomach.
But I couldn't get past it.
The Metal Maniac, he is a student of Don Morocco and Snuka, actually. So that's how he got his name on the ballot, I guess you could say. And pretty much he was brought in to job to Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka. All the time.
He came into job at the Jobbers Convention.
Okay.
He took second in the cornhole tournament.
The only person to take second. Pretty much just a power move thing, as I don't think both men really have any technical abilities. Slams, clotheslines, punches, elbows, stuff like that.
101 type.
Mono moves. And then eventually the Sandman wins after a clothesline from the top rope. Not much to that. What are your thoughts?
It was not much to it. It almost seemed like it was just like, here's this guy with a really funny name. Oh, by the way, we need to get the Sandman on the bill.
Yeah. But I mean, the Metal Maniac's not like really that new. He's been in the company since '92. So I don't know, and the Sandman's a former world champion, so this is like, we need to fill this TV show on October 12th.
Holy shit, why did we do this for 2 days?
Alright, this is going to be the opening match before the Carver W. Reed commercial. That's pretty much what that was. Next match is actually a lot of big names. So, the big match was Don Morocco, Jimmy Snuka, Kevin Sullivan versus Terry Funk, JT Smith, and Abdullah the Butcher. So this little bit stems from the previous show, at least with Sullivan, Abdullah, and that's about it. Because even though Funk was in that match, he had issues with Stan Hansen, but he's not in this card, so...
Or as I call him, Hand Stanson.
All these guys we know, we met before. Not much to this big brawling match. We start off by Sullivan attacking Funk, getting into the ring, which he and Abby respond by throwing chairs.
Lots of chairs.
Yeah, they just start tossing chairs into the ring. Whole bunch of brawling. Not much wrestling. Takes place a lot of the match outside.
A lot outside.
And the only background I can think of is, like I said, Abdullah and Sullivan after the Ultra Class match. Because remember, they were partners. And then they came to blows. Each, I assume, blaming each other for losing. So, Paulie, he does bring up that Smith has an injured knee, which has been like a storyline for years. Now. Since he was a child.
He fell off of a pipe.
You always think that'll be a like storyline or plotline, but they do use that to kind of get him over too, as like, look at his heart, like Mowgli from Captain Planet.
It's also a request to socialize healthcare, so this guy can get his knee looked at.
Much they should be. Maybe you should hook up with Todd Shaw from Canada, get some free healthcare. A lot of poles and ring posts used in the. You notice how this was a staple of the building is the big banister pole just in the middle of the walkway that they actually have to go around to get to the ring when they come out of the entrance gate. So that's used a lot, as is the ring post.
If it's going to be there, you may as well use it.
Yeah. JT, I think he takes a pretty nasty bump, like the flip bump from a clothesline on the floor, which Todd Gordon always states that this kid has balls and he's always willing to take the big bumps. Probably why his knees hurt, I would assume. The crowd starts the "We Want Blood" chants, which will become more and more chanted.
More and more
enchanted as the days go on. Snuka, he ends up throwing some kind of powder into Morocco's eyes.
We know it wasn't cocaine.
No, because he would not waste it, correct. This was a mistake, and then JT pins him with that god-awful inside cradle for the win. What are your thoughts?
This match was funny because they just came out and all of a sudden I didn't know what was happening, and then all of a sudden there were just there were chairs flying and they were just fighting in the stands, and then it was over. Yeah,
it was just a wild brawl.
Yeah,
and for as many people who were in the match, it was one of the shorter ones too.
Yeah, and it was this out of all the other matches just kind of showed you how weird this entire scenario was, because if you were watching just a regular ECW show, it just made sense, but it just didn't fit with what was going on.
Yeah, I feel like probably a lot of them would have had to been toned back, like Abdullah the Butcher and Kevin Sullivan.
It reminded me of Back to the Future 1, the Marty McFly scene where he's singing Johnny Be Good at the 50s dance. It just didn't belong.
And at the end, everyone's just like, huh?
What?
Alright. But like I said, yeah, not very long. And then it pretty much just got JT Smith over because he was definitely the least famous out of the 6 wrestlers. So, alright, next is a big time match. At least for us. Sabu versus the Tasmaniac from Tasmania. So, this is our first look at 2 people who would become pretty much staple of ECW.
Foundation,
correct.
if you will.
And where does the foundation belong?
On the ground.
At the bottom, not at the top. First, we have Sabu, who is a Lebanese American. He's the nephew of the original Sheik, began his wrestling career in the States, but eventually traveled to Japan with his uncle, and they wrestled for FMW, which, if you've never seen FMW, that was like crazy Japan hardcore wrestling, way more hardcore than ECW. They had exploding rings, they had fire, barbed wire, all the foreign objects.
All of the
Table breaking, that's where it originated from. So he competed in numerous barbed wire matches, as you can tell by the massive amount of scars he has on his body. Here, he's led into the ring with his manager, which happens to be Hunter Q. Robbins III at this time. He introduces a video package on the previous week showing who Sabu is and his matches from Japan, pretty much. He is strapped to a gurney, like a legit gurney. Almost looks like a dolly.
Because he's crazy.
It's made of pure steel, you can tell.
He cannot be let out of his chains unless he's fighting.
He comes out with his handler, who we eventually learn and will be 911, but right now he's just some tall mullet guy. Wheels him to ringside. He has a Hannibal Lecter mask on.
So he doesn't eat anybody.
Correct. And you can see him struggling to escape. He said he actually hated that part because it would really tire him out prior to the match. You can see he's really struggling really hard. He said by the time he got to the ring, he was fucking whooped.
He was doing Pilates.
So another reason he didn't want to do it is because that's famous, and somebody in Japan did that, and he thought it was very disrespectful to rip off pretty much the gimmick doing that. But eventually he got to the ring. He was released, where he'd wreak havoc all over the arena, but mostly in the ring on an opponent. So I feel like somebody like that wouldn't be able to focus on one person.
Right, he would just be like eating children in the stands and
correct,
like
but
bashing his head on things. He channeled his crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to get your crazy focused tunnel vision. So his opponent, Tasmaniac, aka Peter Sinertia, I believe is how you pronounce it. Sinertia. Yeah, he's from Brooklyn.
Fucking Brooklyn.
Correct.
Fucking New York.
Yeah. Prior, he had a couple of dark matches in WCW and WWF, but nothing ever came of it. Other than that, he really didn't have much of a history prior to that, so this would make the Tasmaniac have to build his own pathway or make his own legacy in ECW, but time will tell if that happens. So stay tuned. So
I'll be right back.
After these messages.
We'll be right back.
Alright, so Sabu starts the match like a ball of fire. Pretty much how that starts off is Tasmaniac tries to attack Hunter Q. Sabu comes in and just goes nuts on him. Sabu eventually dumps the Tasmaniac outside and then hits the Asahi moonsault, which is the moonsault to the outside from the second rope, named after Ultimo Dragon, or the Ultimate Dragon, who is in WCW, which is his real last name. He invented that. Yes, Dragon. No, Asahi.
Is his first name actually Ultimate?
No. Right after this, I don't know, for some reason 911 restrains him, and then we cut to the Maddie in the House interview. So, like, that was just, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere.
He's like, huh?
It just cuts to Maddie in the House. So, Maddie in the House, he's Matt DeMatt is his name. His last name is DeMatt.
Of course it is. He's just chilling in the parking lot.
He's
looking through the trash.
Yeah, he's a local DJ, nightclub owner. He's pretty much brought in for the younger crowd to do the hip-hop scene, the music, all
He's
that
the Ryan Seacrest of ECW.
Correct. That's very good. I don't know, he just does a quick interview about what's going on, then all of a sudden we just cut back to Sabu being restrained and then let loose again into the audience. So I don't really know what that whole deal was about. It was really awkward. But whatever, we'll go with it.
They had to change the tape in the Handycam.
Maybe that's... or the batteries. So eventually the Tasmaniac rejoins the brawl, as does Sabu, and the bell rings despite both men being nowhere near the ring. So apparently what all this must have been was prior to the match starting. So that was just the ring entrance previously. So the bell rings despite none of them being nowhere near the ring. Finally they do make it to the ring though, which is weird. I don't think Hannibal Lecter would like take somebody to jail to torture them or something like that, you know. a confined area. Sabu, he hits a nice somersault plancha. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
It's like a dive, somersault dive to the outside.
Okay.
Taz, he just starts destroying Sabu with chairs, which is nice. Beating the shit out of him. Another springboard moonsault by Sabu, and he actually ends up hurting himself. I think he hits his ankle or something. The Tasmaniac, which is another funny thing about, you know how Sabu's all crazy or whatever, this Tasmaniac is supposed to be like a wild man from Tasmania or whatever, but he hits these very technically sound suplexes that are like picture perfect. So that's kind of funny, although they look nasty and they're very well done. So Tasmaniac, he's rocking the Bam Bam tights, you know, the one arm strap, the triangles, and the Flintstone. What was that fur made out of?
I believe it was a
mammoth.
A woolly mammoth.
Woolly mammoth, yeah, I would go with that. He's just missing the
club,
the wooden club. Yep. So eventually, he brings a table into the ring, and much like Ultra Clash and pay-per-views previously, what happens when you bring in a foreign object?
You have to use it.
No, it gets used against you.
Per karma.
Per the rules and karma. So he kind of puts him on the table, Sabu to Taz, that is, and the table actually gives way before he can actually use it. So Sabu just hits a moonsault, and it looks like he lands like right on his face, on Taz's face, but he ends up pinning him for the 3 count. So honestly, for me, this is the first match I actually liked. It's pretty high intensity compared to everything else, which was like slow, methodical. This was just Paul Heyman style, like shoot out of the starting gate. A lot of high spots and power moves. With you got Sabu's flips and moonsaults and everything, and then Taz's awesome suplexes. So it was the best of both worlds in my book. You got brawling, high spots, and then
it wasn't a boring match. You get to see some good wrestling, and it was just kind of fun to watch because like these are names that you need to know.
Yeah, correct. You're introduced. Like, I wish the only thing that sucks is the course the Federation will take, but it's nice to see this is like where they started and how they started and what they'll evolve to be. So post match, Sabu, he just starts moonsaulting that table without anyone on it, just because he was pissed off. He apparently is just like that. He's legitimately kind of crazy and has a high tolerance for pain, apparently,
and just doesn't like tables.
I wonder how he eats.
They feed him.
Definitely doesn't use a spoon. Anything else on that match?
Yes, sir.
In the aftermatch shenanigans? Next, big match. It's the ECW tag titles. Tony Stetson and Johnny Hotbody, who are the champions, which I don't know how that happened. It was never explained. Versus Bad Company. I assume Hotbody and Stetson were just given the belts because, as you know, last time the tag team champions were Eddie Gilbert and the Dark Patriot, who was his brother Doug Gilbert.
They won it in a poker game.
Is that's how Hotbody and Stetson?
Yeah.
Paul E put up the tag belts.
Yeah.
And lost. His 4 of a kind lost to Royal Flush. Yeah. If you do remember these two, they had the bloody feuds back in the TWA, and now they are the tag champs. So, what is that? Bitter rivals become, or better enemies, or something? Or better enemy, good friends, better enemies?
I never heard that.
Okay, I don't know. Bitter enemies become good friends. How about that? Sounds good.
Sounds like a buddy cop movie.
Honestly, I thought this was going to be a sweet match or whatever, but it turns out it was just more or less highlights. So, this ended with the Public Enemy coming in and costing Bad Company
the match,
a victory and the tag titles. So, I feel like that's going to be a major point as well.
That's going to be a catalyst for more action in the future.
Correct. So, on one card, this must have been on the first day, so they built it up for the second day. So,
hopefully you bought your 2-day pass.
Correct. You got a deal. So, yeah, not much on that, so we won't really go too far into that. That was more or less just a setup for a storyline. So, next we got what we thought was going to be earlier with Rebel and Chris Michaels. So, this stems from the shenanigans post-match after the Rebels match with Donnie Allen earlier in the night. So, start of this match is a lot of punching. A lot of punching by the Rockin' Rebel. and then eventually he just wins. He wins with he wins with a punch.
He came in with a strategy.
It stuck to that strategy.
He executed the strategy
flawlessly.
Strategy worked. That's good strategy.
Yes. He had a game plan, stuck to it, and what do you know? He got the victory. But I'll give him this. He had brass knuckles on when he did win with his last punch.
Helps.
It does. So, any other thoughts besides the great strategy used by the Rock and Rebel?
I just love a good pre-planned strategy.
More or less not on the match, just the strategy used.
I love when you map quest how to kick the shit out of somebody.
It gives you step-by-step
And Siri just says, punch him in the face.
How many steps were in this strategy, do you think?
Make a U-turn. Punch him in the face.
Recalculate.
Punch him in the face.
That was like 14 steps, and 13 of the steps were punching him in the face.
Right, yeah.
I think one was apply brass knuckles.
And then when he fucking fell down, it just said, "You've reached your destination on the left."
All right.
Ah, there goes that murderer! You got away with murder, you murdering, lying waste of life!
So, Terry Funk versus Snuka is up next, and this is in a cage for the television title. It's labeled Funk's Last Stand, meaning that if he doesn't win, he will never get another title shot ever in the city of Philadelphia.
Proper. City of Philadelphia, proper.
Correct. So a good way to make this seem like a big, but really demean it in this city.
Right.
If they go outside the city, it'd be fine. Does that mean he wouldn't be able to defend it if he did win it outside the city?
He could just have the defense in Allentown.
He just actually wouldn't even have to show up to shows in Philly. Pretty much this is the first one out of the cage wins. Paulie explains why he is not at ringside, which is brilliant on his part, because, you know, he wants to be on commentary, and they're really trying to get Snuka and Morocco and all them, with the Eddie Gilbert leaving, trying to break up that Dangerous Alliance and stuff. So he says that everyone's contract is under review since joining the NWA, which is pretty smart on his part. So that means, since he wasn't the official manager of Snuka, he is not allowed at ringside. So it was a pretty sweet explanation. I love when they explain stupid shit like that, because that's just shit I think about. Like, when I watch movies or whatever, people are always worried about the plot and all that, and I'm like, whose room is that over there that nobody has come in or out of? What is it behind that door? You know, like stupid trivial shit like that.
Where do they keep their eggs?
Yeah, so that fridge is so full, they don't even have an egg tray. How do they make eggs? First one to eat the steel, Terry Funk. Snuka, he hits a pretty nice pile driver, but he's unable to escape the cage. They brawl onto the top of the cage. Funk almost falls out, but eventually crotches himself on the top rope. So I think we were talking about this previously. If you're up on top of the cage, you would just fall down.
Right.
Instead of fall back into the ring.
Right.
Or brawl on top of the cage.
Like, the bulk of this match was the participants being on top or on the outside of the cage, not getting off the cage. It reminds me of like a movie where like someone falls out of a window, right? And they catch onto the building and they're like screaming and they don't look down, and when they do look down, they realize that whatever they caught and them hanging there, they're only like a foot off the ground. Like, that's what they were doing. They're like on the outside of the fence, hanging there, like not going down for fear of falling, and they're like a foot and a half off the ground. Like, they're just falling down and just softly just fell. You landed on the ground.
You might bruise your heel.
Right? Yeah.
They
may have like scuffed their shoes.
You might have to polish your boots after this one's over.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Blank Man?
Yes.
When he's like, the lady's trapped on top of the elevator, and he shoots his plunger up there and then wheels himself down, and his brother's like, dude, we can jump down. It's like a foot jump.
Right.
That's
what it was, yeah.
That's literally what it was.
Yeah.
That's always funny. So So eventually Funk, he does ram Snuka's head into every side of the cage, all 4 sides. So,
That way it's
giving
not,
him a tour.
That way it's not dented on one side.
Correct. It evens it out.
Right.
He eventually then hits his version of a pile driver, which is very weak and safe. So his head doesn't get anywhere near the mat. Funk, he delivers a plethora of headbutts to Snuka. But as you know, Jimmy Snuka is from the island, so his head can crack coconut. So he's got a very hard head. He ends up laughing it off and then nails Funk with his own devastating headbutt. What are your thoughts on that role play?
Funk doesn't feel it because he's numb everywhere from the opioid addiction.
From painkiller. But no, he does feel it because it's devastating.
Yeah.
More brawling on the top of the cage, like you said. More than 50% of this match takes place up on the top rope or the top of the cage.
Or the bottom of the cage.
The outside.
The outside bottom of the cage,
Yeah.
1 to 5 inches away from the floor.
One rung above the ground. Funk eventually gets a small cut above his head, but not too bloody. So a little bit of color, but this is NWA, remember, so it can't get too bloody. And they continue to ram each other's heads into the cage, and then Funk eventually takes your advice and just falls off the cage.
He realized.
Onto the table, and then he ends up winning the TV title. So I don't understand this, but after the match, Funk goes completely berserk, takes out the cameraman, and starts throwing chairs over the cage into the ring. I think this is kind of just warming up of things to come, maybe. Funk is starting to lose his good guy nature.
I thought he was just cleaning up.
There was the end of night one.
He was packing up.
He was trying to get all the chairs into one spot so they could be easily filed.
He was stacking chairs up like at the end of an AA meeting.
What were your thoughts on that match?
It's just funny. The whole cage thing on the outside was just funny.
Somehow Funk always makes his match it seems like he's trying to be serious, but they just turn into humorous.
They quickly turn into humorous, like the strap match with the 90-foot strap
and the 8x8 ring.
Yeah. It's on paper they're always great, and then just something logistically happens that just doesn't pan out.
Yeah. So, I mean, cage matches are always fun, but it's always funny the winner of a cage match is the first person.
The first person that runs away. You run away the fastest.
Yeah, and that would definitely not be you, ever.
No.
Or me, for that matter. Yeah, all in all, not bad. Good match. 2 big names. Finally, Snuka doing something, And Terry Funk, he can always get the crowd going. So, like I said, post-match, though, I feel like Funk, he's really trying to not be the nice guy, starting to lose his shit, He took out a cameraman, for Christ's sake. That's not like Terry Funk. He's a people person. Although then, directly after this, we cut to Terry Funk interview with the TV title over his shoulder. He puts over the ECW title, saying that this means more to him than any WCW or WWF title that he's held. I mean, he always... Whoever he's working for, he puts over that company. And for some reason, he just loved ECW and was always putting over the new... He was all about putting over new guys in the next generation, which a lot of wrestlers, it's all about me. I need all the belts.
And that's why so many wrestlers that came after him really look up to him and loved him because they did. Built careers.
That's the whole point. There's not really many people like that because it's so selfish these days. One I do know that's really like that actually is the Big Show. He loves putting over people, especially because he's so big. He can make it look so.
He lost an abundance of pounds.
Did he? He always does that. It seems like though he fluctuates like a anorexic bitch. He'll go from 500 pounds to 180, and then somehow he shrinks.
Blossom again.
Then he eats a Yokozuna-sized meal. But yeah, he's all about putting over people, putting over the youngsters, because you got to set up for that. Especially at this point, he's well into his 40s, in the early 90s. So putting over the next generation. I mean, you're not going to be here forever, and then all these other people, they like their egos are so big. They refuse to lose in front of their home crowd or stuff like that. Like, I feel like if I was a wrestler, that's like a big shock. You know, get somebody some big heat or at least some crowd praise. Like, have them beat you in your own town. You know, that you walk on water and. Like, that's how you really put someone over, and Funk was always, he was, like, one of the most selfless wrestlers in a selfish-ass business, so I have a lot of respect for Funk, even though his goddamn finishing move is stupid as shit. But that's all I have to say about that in Funk. So it's nice to see him win a title back. He, I don't think he had the TV title before, did he? No, this is the first title I think he's held in ECW. So we cut to Paulie knocking on Snuka's dressing room door in the back, but he can't get in. Can't obtain access to his own.
Does not want him in there.
Correct. So that's the end of night one.
And then everybody slept and didn't go out drinking and partying.
Everyone slept in the same clothes and didn't shower.
And then they woke up the next day and they had a delicious continental breakfast at the local Motel 6.
No, they actually stayed at the Travel Lodge. That's where they always stayed.
Okay. And
which they called the Loser Lodge or the... What do they call it? The Circle of something. The Circle of Hell, maybe. I don't know.
Sounds like a great place to live. And then they came back to the arena refreshed, unhungover, showered, clothes laundered.
And ready to work.
And ready to go to work and do the finest job that they could possibly do.
Correct. I wonder how many of them, like, barely got up in time at 7 p.m. bell time.
None of them, like, there were some that didn't go to sleep.
Probably, yeah.
Sarah! He'll have you in a second, baby! Come on! Don't you come on. Please, Sarah!
Sorry, Gabe. You're almost there. You're almost there, Gabe. Keep going.
I'm here, Sarah. Sarah, I'm here.
I don't want to die.
Sarah! Reach up and grab him! Reach up! Sarah, reach up! Come on, honey! Use your other hand! Reach up! Reach up now! Reach up! I got you. You're right. You're not gonna die. Don't you lose her, Gabe. It's her. You can do it, sir.
Hold her, Gabe. Hold her. Gabe, please don't let me fall. Please, I don't want to die.
You're not gonna die. Sarah, I got you. Just reach up. You can do it. Please, baby, just reach up. Reach up. Gabe, man, don't you lose her. Don't you let her go.
Don't let me fall. I'm living.
Sir, please.